If you've been looking to create an Instagram page for your podcast, or you already have an Instagram page for your podcast but are just looking to take it to that next level, then stick around, because at the end of this episode, you'll have all the steps that you need for creating the perfect Instagram page for your podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to Impact Podcaster Academy. My name is Alec Hassan, and I help podcasters create more impact and income with their show without them needing to rely on getting a whole bunch of sponsors or going viral, trying to get a bunch of downloads and listens. That's some complicated stuff. Takes a lot of time. And anyway, in this episode, I want to talk you through the exact steps that I use to set up my Instagram page for my podcast. And these are steps that other well-established podcasters and Instagram profiles, or I guess Instagram people, have used to go from 0 to hundreds of thousands of followers. But before I tell you the steps, I want to point out the wrong steps. It's like, what? The wrong? You want to tell me what not to do first? Yeah, exactly. That way you can kind of avoid it moving forward. So oftentimes what I've seen when people create their Instagram profiles, even when creating a podcast, for example, they'll start with their profile first. They experiment with different posts. They're coming up with a name. They're just creating content, putting things out there. They're going to follow a whole bunch of people. They're going to comment, like a bunch of posts, and then they top it off by using 30 plus hashtags and just pray that one of them will deliver them more likes and follows. But the approach that we're going to be taking here, it's a bit more strategic. Actually, it's very strategic. It's one where we're going to start with intentionality. It starts by knowing who you're trying to serve, what numbers you're trying to be hitting, what pain points and desires you're going to be speaking towards. And then you can begin to build something that's really incredible and something that can really impact people's lives, really impact your audience lives, all while also growing your podcast and your income in the process. So I have episodes that go in depth on how to do all of those previously mentioned things. So if you aren't sure about numbers or how to identify pain points, desires of your audience that you're trying to serve, I recommend go back, listen to some of the previous episodes, just so you can get a bit of a firmer understanding of those things before listening to the rest of this episode. So let's dive in real quick to the steps that are needed to create, I would say, the perfect Instagram profile for your podcast. So the first part that we're going to be focusing on is the username. You've gone through, you've studied, you've looked at other profiles, you know who you're speaking to, you know what your market is, you know how you're going to be kind of different than all the other people that are out there. And now it's time to come up with a username that's going to adequately communicate who you are, what you do, and who you're speaking to. So you want to make sure that your username is short. It's easy to read. Ideally, it should be 2-3 words tops, and those words should not be difficult to spell, and they shouldn't be really long either. Your name, it should also be really easy to remember. You can do this by having maybe the words in your username rhyme. I've seen some people do that. You can have the words in your username start with the same first letter, but more importantly, the words, they got to resonate with your brand and your marketing message. So if your content is going to be focused on motivation, you can have the word motivation in your title. If your content is going to be focused on having a healthy keto diet, you could put keto in the title. If your audience has a particular term that they identify with, you could use that term as well. So for example, Miss_yoga poet. That could be a username for a woman who does yoga, and maybe they write poetry as well. It kind of makes sense. You see the username, you're like, oh, it's a girl who does yoga and probably writes poetry. And it's exactly. That's how you want your name to sort of be. So if you're trying out different usernames and you find that some are already taken, do not add a number at the end of it. Don't make yours Bible Podcast Man 123. That doesn't work. It looks kind of unprofessional, and there's other ways that you could make that username your own without using something like letters. So for example, the Miss_yoga poet. If that username is already taken, don't do Miss_yoga poet 43. You could do something where you add the word the. You could remove a word. You could try putting dashes or underscores. And you'll see that there's like a bunch of different combinations of things that you could do that might make yours unique. So for example, when I was doing Impact Podcaster Academy, it's very fortunate that like I wanted to do Podcaster Academy because there's already an Impact Podcast Academy. They don't post anymore. They haven't posted in like over a year. And I was like, oh man, I can't use that username. But then I was like, oh wait, no, mine's not Impact Podcast. It's Impact Podcaster. There's even a profile called Podcaster Academy. There's probably one also called Podcast Academy. But like by adding different words, you could put you could put official, it could be, you could do official Bible study man or something like that. Another option is that you can have your username set as your own name. This is going to build your own personal image as the brand. Now, typically, like, coaches and consultants or like motivational speakers, artists, these are the type of people that are going to have their username be their actual name because they're marketing more so themselves, not necessarily a specific product or service. But the downside of having your name as a username is that everything is going to be linked to you specifically. So keep that in mind. If you aren't the face of the brand and you use your username, if you're not the face of the brand, you really don't have a brand. It gets kind of confusing. So if you aren't present, basically the brand isn't able to move forward if your name is the brand. So everything is very much tied to who you are and what you do when you are the brand. Kind of see that? So once you have the username set up, the next step would be to set up your profile picture. Now, this photo, it should be very high quality, should be consistent with your brand. It's clear what the image is trying to show. It's not blurry or anything like that. It's not very tiny. If your content is centered around like a particular product or a particular theme, then you could have the product or like a logo as the photo. So for example, if you mainly talk about food or video games, then you could have a photo of some delicious food, or you could have like a retro video game console. If you mainly talk about like retro video games or something like that. But if your content mainly consists of you presenting the content, then you could very easily just have your profile image as the photo. You could have your face be the Instagram profile photo. So if you do use a photo of your face as a profile image, you just got to make sure your face is clear. You got to have an expression that's congruent with the feeling that you want to convey in your content. If you're goofy, maybe have a goofy face. If you're very happy, have a happy face. If you're a very stern person, takes things very, very seriously, then don't smile. Have a furrowed brow. Maybe make the photo black and white. Have it consistent with the brand. And speaking of colors as well, you want to make sure the colors are also congruent with your brand too. You don't want too many colors. I would say 4 distinct colors max. It could be as little as 2 colors. Obviously, you're going to need like more than one color if you got like white and blue or something like that. But as little as 2 colors, as most as 4. And the thing that's very interesting is that studies have shown that different colors can subconsciously influence people's emotions or can subconsciously have them feel different types of ways. And this is important because, you could have the colors in your profile picture subconsciously inform the viewer what to expect of your content before they even view it. But if you have those colors wrong, then someone could be coming to your profile thinking that it's going to be one thing, then it's not. So let's say you got a profile photo where it's like lots of black and red colors. It's kind of like intense, it feels intense. But then when someone goes to your profile, then it's like, maybe they click on your podcast and listen to it and they're like, hi guys, this is Dan. And today I really want to break down the different steps for how to be more peaceful and calm. And it's like, hold up, dark black and red. Those are the brand colors? But you're soft voice Dan over here talking about, and I'm sorry if anyone's name is Dan out there, but it's like, that doesn't feel congruent. So an example is, for my brand, my profile colors, they consist of white, blue, and like a gold/orange. And I picked these colors because they're colors that I liked, but also because I want them to they have specific feelings and emotions associated with them that I want people to kind of pick up on before they even click on my content. So I used white because it gives off this feeling of like simplicity, clarity, sense of like hope. Blue gives off a feeling of calm, confidence, reliability. And then like the gold and orange colors, they kind of create a feeling of enthusiasm, fun, and warmth. And these are feelings that are very strongly associated with the type of content that I produce, and it's the type of feelings I want my audience to feel when they view and they engage with my content. Now, you may only use 2 colors, or possibly you choose to use all 4, but the main thing is that whatever colors you pick, you got to make sure they evoke the right emotions that people will expect when they view your content. So we got the profile photo, we got the colors for it, and we got the username done. Now we'll talk about writing your bio. Now the bio is really important because it's going to clarify and clearly define what your page is about, and it can either attract or deter people from following you. Now, you should be able to summarize what you do in like 1 sentence. A sentence structure that you could use, that it's actually like a really cool framework that you can use that can help clearly communicate what you do, who you're working for, or who you're serving, essentially, like who your audience is and what results they can expect, is to use this framework. So you could say like, I help, and then insert demographic here. So I help demographic achieve result, say what the result is, by, and then by doing, then you describe what it is that you do differently, and then you say without, and then whatever it is, the thing that your audience doesn't like, you're helping them get this result by doing your thing without them needing to do the thing that they don't like. So does that make sense? I'm going to repeat it again. So you help a certain demographic receive a certain result by using your unique thing, and they don't got to use this other thing that they're annoyed by. That's like 1 sentence right there that you could use. It could be even as simple as pointing out just who you help and what you help them achieve. I help demographic achieve this. Or if you're this type of person and you want to achieve this result, that's what I do. It's as simple as that. You basically think of your bio like a personal business card. It should boost your credibility and your reliability. And you got to make it easy to read. You can use bullet points to structure what it is that you do. You could include things like emojis. Just make it very simple, straight to the point. And if you need some more inspiration for how to do that, look at the different Instagram profiles of people in your market, see what they're doing too, and try to use that as inspiration for how to structure yours. So most of the time, the first line, it's going to be the summarized sentence of what it is you do, who you help, and how you help them. And then the second line could promote your podcast. It could be like, leader of the such and such podcast. And then the third line could mention something to boost your credibility. You could say like author of best-selling novel, blah, blah, blah. Coached 1,000 people, something like that. And, or if you want, you could like whatever the last line is. What I've seen on most profiles, the last line of the bio is typically always going to point people to their bio link. It's going to tell them what benefit they could get if they click the link below. And the link could be to your website, or it could be to like a low commitment offer, something free for them to download, like a lead magnet. And I'd recommend that the link on your Instagram page, it should point people to like a lead magnet or a low commitment offer. You could have it to your podcast, but if you have it to like a lead magnet, something that people are able to download of value in exchange for sharing their email with you, that's very helpful because you can continue to stay in contact with them, and you could even email them about new podcast episodes that come out. So if they do click on your podcast, they listen to an episode, there's only 1 or 2 options. They either subscribe, or maybe they listen to another episode, or they leave, But if someone goes to your page and they're like, oh, here's the lead magnet, and then they get the lead magnet, now you have their email. You can continue to reach out to them. You can let them know of new episodes that come out, new things that you're doing. But if they subscribe to your podcast, you can't do that. Like, I know people that subscribe to my podcast, and they don't, like, sometimes they just aren't even shown new episodes that come out. And it just happens, it's a profile. But if you're able to email them, you can make sure, you send them 2 or 3 emails, they're going to see those emails, but you don't want to spam them, of course. But it's way more beneficial. It's way more helpful to increase engagement by getting their email, so you can personally reach out to them. I'd also recommend, go do some research on pages that are similar to how you would like your page to be. See how they do their bios. That way you can get inspiration for how to write your own. Even though I'd like to put examples of bios, like more examples of bios in this episode, things change. One thing might be in style and then it'll go out of style. So that's why I kind of recommend see what other people are doing right now, because if big brands are doing something a certain way, yeah, best believe they're doing it because it works. So last part that I want to talk about are the story highlights. They're often called like pinned stories. These are basically like the little highlight reels that are just below the bio, but like they're right above the regular posted content that'll be on your Instagram page. But before I talk about how to create one, I want to mention what you should use for the story highlight. So essentially, these should be snippets of like your best content, best moments, best testimonials, help people understand what they can expect when they follow your page without them needing to sift through all your content. So your first highlight, it could be something that talks about you. It could be sharing your own story or personal testimony. Talks about who you are, mentions what people can expect when they follow your page. This will help kind of build rapport with your audience, connect with them. Examples of other story highlights that you could create include testimonies, case studies, behind the scenes, tips on a particular topic, or each story highlight could be just a compilation of content that you made around a specific theme. So essentially, you could think of these story highlights kind of like a table of contents in a book. People will see it, they'll click on it, and then they'll immediately be shown content around that specific thing. So the story highlight, it's really an opportunity for you to help sell yourself, sell your podcast, and sell your Instagram page and what you do. Again, look at what other people in the industry are doing for your market. They might have certain highlights that you're like, man, that's a good idea. I'm going to make a highlight about that. Also, since highlights are prone to getting more updates and stuff in the future, you could look up online like how to make a story highlight on Instagram. I think you'd get a lot of good value from that, because those things could change. But like what's in the highlight, those essentially are going to continue to stay the same. Personal story, testimony, case studies, top content, topics, themes, stuff like that. So to wrap up this episode, I just want to go over some like kind of key points to remember here, because I feel like we kind of covered a bunch of different topics. I just want to cover some key stuff without necessarily needing to go super in depth on each one. So to wrap up, here are the key points to remember. You want to make sure that your username is short, easy to read. Ideally, it should be like 2 to 3 words, and these words should not be difficult to spell or very lengthy. The name's got to be easy to remember, and the words in your username need to resonate with your brand and your marketing message. Profile photo, it's got to be high quality. It's got to be consistent with your brand. It should contain 2 to 4 colors max that are consistent with your brand. Bio should include summarized sentence of who you help, what you help them achieve. Second line in the bio could promote your podcast. Third line could try to boost your credibility. But whatever it is that you have for the last line should tell people what benefit they'll get from clicking the link in your bio. And then the link in the bio should be like some type of lead magnet. Last but not least, the story highlights. These are just basic snippets of your best content, moments, or testimonies. Share a personal story, help people understand what they can expect when they follow your page. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really hope I was able to share you all the best tips and tricks for creating an Instagram page that is perfect for your podcast. So thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.